Yeah. Orgasm Simulator's the best game I've ever bought. What? What? Stop playing video games and record a video? I don't know. Why? I don't want to talk about pro wrestling. Everybody's talking about pro wrestling. Everyone's talking about pro wrestling poorly. What does it matter if I'm the one that talks? Fine. Let me look in my little book here and see what I've got. Okay, I'll put the games down. See, what do we have? Okay. Nice. Listen, I know you want me to talk about wrestling, but the Sarah J versus Mia Khalifa, whose ass is fatter video competition, I think that's the hitter. That's the real winner. Sure. 9/11. Overdone. I can't beat Alex Jones. Fine. Here's a pro wrestling video. So recently I went on to my Facebook, my personal Facebook, which none of you will ever have unless you already have it, in which case, good job. Congratulations. At the behest of Dio, Vice President Dio of Akira TV, say hello, President Dio, I asked a question on my Facebook, and I asked, what do people in pro wrestling, especially the younger generation, or my current generation, my peers, what is something that they would like to ask me about what I've experienced, what I've lived, and what I've done in pro wrestling? And I've actually gotten a few questions that I think are good enough for a video. One in particular from a new TNA signee. So pro wrestling is a very wide and encapsulating genre of art. It is, of course, very similar like every other art. It has its highs and its lows, and it has all of its in-betweens. It has snakes, it has every kind of person that you would never want to associate with on a day-to-day basis, but it also has some of the best people that you would like to associate with every day for the rest of your life. The first question I was asked on my Facebook is this: what was the hardest lesson that I learned throughout my whole career? That's kind of a heavy question because it could be something in terms of the style of wrestling. It could be something in terms of what difficult thing that it took a while for me to actually learn. The hardest lesson I learned from professional wrestling in my whole career so far, unless my career ends here, which you don't get booked, you don't really have much of a career. The hardest lesson I learned throughout my whole career, though, is unfortunately expecting to trust people, expecting to rely on people, and expecting people to generally follow through with their word. I realized you can't trust everyone. Really, you can't trust anyone. You should never trust anyone from the get-go. You should never trust an individual who you just met, who calls you brother, who shakes your hand and says you did great out there, because that person could, would, and does very often goes behind your back and talks a lot of shit about you to other people once the bell's over, once the show's over, and once they're in the car going onward. The next week, the next show, the next day, they could go to someone and be like, you should have seen this guy. Totally the shits. One of the worst guys. And they could be doing it because A, they believe it. B, they want to make you look bad in order to make themselves look good. Or C, all of the above. The biggest crux of my career so far, and something I've learned and something I will never do again, is trust people. You have to earn my trust through years and years and years of craziness, through years and years and years of being there. And even then, I don't know if I could ever trust anyone ever again. I thought when I signed a contract, I thought that, I could start trusting the people that I was signed to. I really thought that I could trust people in terms of what they thought of me, how they were going to push me, how they're going to handle me, how they were going to utilize me and make me a focal point of something or anything. Things get promised to you, things get taken away from you. That is, of course, the nature of life. And no, pro wrestling and life doesn't owe you anything. But after a while, when you get told that you're going to get something and it gets swept away from you for the next hot thing that unfortunately goes away due to them being temporary rather than a permanent fixture, it gets very exhausting. The second lesson, honestly, is always follow through with your gut. Always follow through with the things that you want to do for yourself. To not trust promoters. Don't trust other wrestlers as far as you can throw them. Trust them in the ring because you have to. It's the nature of the game. But always rely on yourself. At the end of the day, a promoter will promise you something. They'll try to keep you. They'll try to limit you so that way they can keep you all to themselves. The most important thing that you can do in terms of your career and in terms of yourself is do what you want. Follow your heart, follow your dreams. Don't let people tell you that they are going to stop booking you because you're going to go work for a promotion which has a good opportunity. If that's really what they believe, then they're not for you. They're for themselves. I've been told so many times not to work for a certain promotion because if they did, they would not have a spot with me for that show. And it is such a crock of shit because here I am, 5 years removed from something like that. I look back and I really fumbled something that would have been really cool for me. I really fumbled my Tournament of Survival debut for GCW because I listened to someone and I believed that I would lose my spot in a promotion just because I was going to debut for them. But also, I was also right in also not trusting the company that I was going to try to move towards as well. You get to the point with your career where you can't trust anyone and you realize that there's snakes all around you. It's just what snake can you get something from while watching your back? I've stumbled and I've fallen because I've put my trust in the wrong people. The most important lesson I'm going to carry with myself in pro wrestling and in my streaming and content career from now on is don't trust anyone. Don't trust anyone until they have shown you that they are trustworthy. And 9 times out of 10, these people will not be trustworthy. The second question that I was asked was, what was my most important takeaway from deathmatch wrestling that I brought to traditional wrestling? And it's a really silly little thing. Everyone hears the old tale of the veteran saying, slow down, kid, make things matter. And I realized through my time in deathmatch wrestling, especially in Japan, is when you make things matter and when you make the big moments and you make the big moves, you make the big spectacle of professional wrestling matter in the long run, how less means more, it makes your job so much easier. When you do less in a deathmatch environment and you get the most out of the big bumps, the big landings, the big explosions, the big weapon shots, the big bleeding, it makes the bigger matches mean more. It makes the progression of violence in your matches, 1, easier on your body, but 2, easier for the audience and something that's palpable and understandable. I learned that so much in Japan because the styles of matches I was doing were not all glass heavy, and by the time we got to the end of the match where glass was prominent, it was better received, at least in my perception. The barefoot deathmatch, for example, was paced to the point where when we got to the end with the razor boards, when we were hitting those, it was at the peak of the match, so we didn't have to go into the razors immediately and then try to top that. The pacing and the scaling of it made it to where when we got to that point, it was at the height of the match. And a lot of my matches in Japan, especially my title matches, were not glass heavy at all. There was the title match where I won the belt. There was the second match with Kikuta, which was concrete centric as well as light tubes. And then there was the match with Kodaka, which honestly the big weapon of the match was the Giga Ladder. It wasn't even the light tubes. The light tubes were just an accessory. What I took away from deathmatch wrestling to traditional wrestling is that same kind of scaling, that same kind of understanding that you don't have to do 1,000 moves, but when you do them, pace them to the point to where it makes sense, it flows with the match, it makes sense for the match. And you do the big, crazy things either on a pay-per-view for a championship match or for the end of a rivalry. Make it make sense to where when you do things in traditional wrestling, you get the maximum result from every little thing that you do. And is it something that I'm still working on and still practicing? Of course, I've only been wrestling for 8 years. And yes, it's only been 8 years of wrestling, guys. Like, I've done a lot in 8 years, and I have quite the pedigree for myself that I've made for myself while riding with people like the Rejects, Masada, the Necro Butcher, Madman Pondo, working with MLW, working with RSP, working with all these guys that changed my vision of professional wrestling in their own way. Shout out Speedball Mike Bailey as well. And this leads into the third question, which again, I get to ask this all the time. What was with the fascination with hardcore death matches to me? For me, it was not something where I was always wanting to be a deathmatch wrestler. But what really drew me was when I watched Jun Kasai versus Alex Colon at GCW's They Said It Couldn't Be Done. I saw that match. I watched those two integrate professional wrestling and deathmatch wrestling, glass, weapons, the whole 9 yards, and incorporate it in a way with more character and charisma than most pro wrestlers have a day in their lives. And I realized the beauty and the chaos of what it was. Did I think I was going to be that? No. It was through deathmatch wrestling that I changed the image of myself that people had, where people didn't see me as a hard-hitting mat wrestler. They just saw me as some kid. They wanted me to be doing lucha. But it was through the glass, through the barbed wire, through all of the cuts and the scars that litter my body today. Vision of me slowly changed because I forced them to change. I educated people on who I was, and I said I was not kidding around. I'm tougher than you. They can't take that away from me. You can put me in a maid dress and people will still cheer for me like they do any other day. They will still believe in me 100%, and that's the beauty of what I bring to the table. Death matches really helped me discover who I am as a person. How far I could go if I was pushed to it. How much pain someone can actually take and endure. I can look back at myself, especially as someone who had no desire to be hit with glass at all, and I can see how tough I really am and the kind of person that I really am at the end of the day. Because through all the pain of it all, through all the sadness, through all the misery, I survived. The beauty of deathmatch wrestling is truly like what Jun Kasai said. It is a fight to survive. And then the ultimate question, I think the best question at the end of it all, was from Bear Bronson from TNA now. Shout out Bear. Bear has done nothing but change who he was entirely from his tenure in AEW, and he has become a force of nature who I've never gotten to share the ring with, sadly. Maybe it'll happen one day. I don't know. Bear is one of the reasons why I'm still wrestling. Bear, especially late last year, I was questioning if I wanted to continue wrestling anymore, and he straight up told me, he's like, don't quit. Keep going, keep doing what you're doing. He's like, things are gonna hit a lull. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's when things get really shitty and get really low, that's when things start to really happen. Bear asked this question: if you were able to sit and speak with your rookie self, what would you say? And now there are people that would still call me a rookie to this day, and that's fine. I know I'm a young in terms of the grand scheme of professional wrestling with people who've been doing it for 20 to 30 years, right? There's so many things. So many things I would look at myself and I would laugh, looking at who I was then, how small I was, how innocent and how driven by a dream I was. I believe that I could be a light in a place where there was none. You know, the stories and the legends of professional wrestling go a long, long way, and I would look at myself and say, keep going, because it's going to change your life in ways that you never even imagined. You're going to go all around the world. You're going to do all these different things. People will tell you that you can't do it, but you can. I could tell my younger self people not to talk to, people not to associate with, people not to trust, and I probably would. Keep your heart on your sleeve, but don't trust anyone. Maybe don't fall in love either. Keep driven and keep focused. The goal at the end of the day is to be seen and to get paid. And the people that you think you can trust will hurt you. You don't know the world. You don't know how things actually work. And I still don't even now, but I know a lot more than I did when I was your age. But don't give in, but always be yourself. And don't let anyone change who you are. Don't let anyone undercut what you bring to the table. Because I would tell that kid, I would tell that rookie, they're going to chant your name all around the world. You're going to be beloved by people you've never even met before you even meet them. You'll go to Japan and you'll become the king of an entire style. You'll become the guy who saves an entire promotion. You'll be the guy who lit a fire under an entire scene in 2020. You'll become the golden boy of an entire genre. And eventually, you'll grow beyond that, and you'll try to go even higher. I think I would tell him, that young kid, the reality of life, but I would also instill on him the optimism and the desire to continue going forward. Because you have to realize that the world is not fair and that people are going to cheat you and rob you and backstab you just to make their own ends meet or just to get ahead of you. But it's through dreaming the dreams that we have that we change our lives for the better. I think that's where we're going to end this little video. If you are a young wrestler and you have any questions that you do want to ask me for another version of this, for a part 2, if you will, you can go ahead and comment below. Ask me anything that you want in terms of pro wrestling, whether you are a fan, whether you are, again, a young and up-and-coming pro wrestler, or if you're even a veteran and you want to ask me about my experiences, because again, I'm young and dumb, but I love talking with veterans about the journey of life that is professional wrestling. And I want to thank you guys for watching and taking your time to actually spend time on this video. I appreciate it. If you do like this kind of content from me and you want to see more, please give a thumbs up the video as well as a comment. And if you want to see more and catch all of my content, please subscribe. The more this channel grows, the more I can do things outside of pro wrestling, and the more I can hopefully do more in pro wrestling, you know. What to do. The only thing that I've got going